Hello and welcome back to my channel. So on the bench, well on the table today, because I'm not in the workshop, is this radio. It was sent to me by Tidradio to have a look at, so thank you very much to them. It is the Td-H8, I think the number is. Let me have a look. Yes, it is. It's a Td-H8. So, first impressions of this is, it feels like a very solid, high quality product. I mean, let's have a look at this. I think radios have come a long way since the humble Baofeng UV5R, which was probably about 10 years ago that came out, roughly when I bought this one anyway. And this TID radio is considerably bigger and more solid feeling and a fair bit heavier, but you know, fairly nice to hold in the hand, so I'm not going to complain about the weight or the size of it, unless you've got really small hands, and mine aren't that big. But this particular radio, amazingly, produces 10 watts output, RF power output, and I'll measure that later. I mean, that's just incredible that a radio of this, a handheld radio, can produce so much power. I wonder necessarily if that's a good thing, but of course you can turn it down. It's got 3 power settings, 10, 5 and 2 watts. So without further ado, let's turn it on. So there we are, and unlike other radios, Chinese radios, it's got a full colour LED display. Whether you really will need such a thing, I don't know. I don't see any major advantage in having a colour display. It looks quite pretty, I agree, but the annoying feature of the display is that when it goes out, when it times out and goes black, you can't see anything on the screen, unlike with a traditional LCD display. The only way you know that the radio is on is by the LED there flashing every few seconds. So to me, I don't really see there's any advantage for that, having a display like that. And it may be harder to read outside in bright light. I don't know. I haven't really used the radio much. But there's another problem with the display, which I'll get onto later. But at the moment I just want to go around the radio and describe its various functions. So you have basically a box down here with the 2 displays. One is set to, so it keeps timing out, that's really annoying. But the top one is set to memories, and the bottom one is on VFO. And because there's a green arrow, obviously, that one is displayed at the top. But what I don't understand is, although I've named this memory for a repeater, not too far from here, why it cannot display it up on there. And why, when I cycle through,
frequency mode.
Okay, it's gone to frequency mode.
Channel mode.
Channel mode. And press it again.
Channel mode.
It still says channel mode. That I do not really understand. And also why it can't display the characters up there, only the frequency. And I've been in the menu and I can't see any way to change that. I mean, you can change this display from the named memory to just frequency, but it appears that I can't change that one. Right. I think I'm going to set this to a longer timeout. This is getting annoying. So I've now set it to a 30-second timeout on the display. And if we look around the various things that are on here, I'm not going to cover all of them. Some of them are very obvious. You've got the battery symbol. But across the top, we've got the power indicator. Now, I don't think this is a real power indicator. It doesn't vary if the voltage of the battery drops and the power output drops. I'm virtually sure it's just a free function display. It's got 3 positions only. If I press it in now, it goes right up to 10 watts. And if I change the power, it would go to 5 or 2, no matter what the radio is producing. That's the way I see it anyway. But another criticism I've got is, as is common with the Chinese radios, you have a signal indicator there. And it's your normal, similar thing you get on a cell phone. But why? Why couldn't they have used all this lovely space up there to use this display as a signal indicator? It would have looked far, far, far better than that nasty little symbol down there. They've already got this. They could have adapted it slightly to show more segments than it is at the moment and driven it as a signal meter. Surely they could have done that. And it's commonly done in more expensive amateur radios. And various other things I can say about it. It's got a Bluetooth button, because it's got Bluetooth built into it for programming it. I'll show that later. And on the side, we've got the usual connections for a speaker microphone or programming cable if you want to program it using Chirp, for instance. But the other interesting thing about this is that you can unscrew this, and I won't, and take this rubber cover off completely, which I think is a nice touch, because if you had a speaker microphone plugged in there all the time, that's going to get bent like that, and it's going to be flapping around, and more than likely sooner or later it would get broken off. So that was really nice to see that. What else to say? We have programmable buttons down here, which you can program to do what you want, although the choices are very limited, as I'll show you later. And we also have one on the top, and really the only choices you have with that is the LED, not much else that I can see that it does. And the other thing I don't like, which is very common with all these radios ever since the first ones, is the keypads.
6.
They're these fairly unpleasant,
Cancel. 0.
shut up, fairly unpleasant clicky buttons, which is exactly the same as you get on the cheap Baofangs, and they haven't progressed as far as buttons are concerned after all this time. It would be so easy, wouldn't it, to use a rubber conductive keypad, which is common on even cheap calculators. So it's a minor thing, you know, really a minor thing, but I just don't like the feel of the buttons too much. What else to say about it in appearance and ergonomics? Right, well, on the bottom here we have a charging socket for a USB-C lead, which I think is really nice, the fact that you can charge it via USB, because everybody's got USB chargers, haven't they, these days. My only criticism is, with that socket, you've got to lie it down to charge it. Not a major issue, I agree, but I'd rather have it standing up. So they could have put it on the side somewhere, maybe, but I mean, it almost looks like they've got a space there for something, and it's actually built into the battery, the charge socket. So in theory, you could, if you had two batteries, you could swap one out and have one on charge, which is quite good. What should we do now? Have a look at what comes with it. Well, of course you get a manual with it, and to be fair, it's a fairly decent manual. It's easy to read, the printing's not too small, and tells you everything you need to know basically, so I've got no complaints about the manual. The only thing I did notice was some of the menu items in the actual radio seem missing from this manual, but I'm not really going to worry too much about that. And got a little card here, gives you their website, which we'll look at later, and support number if you want to ring the support, and base charger, which I've not used. It seems a bit superfluous when you've got a socket on there on the radio, because all you do is plug this into the charger, and it does the same job as it would just plugging it into the radio or the battery. I suppose the advantage is the radio stands up, maybe. Excuse me. Strap, carrying strap, and belt clip, usual sorts of things you expect, and of course a charger, and full marks for the charger. It's a proper UK design one with a proper plug on it, so really good to see that, because you normally often get a two pin, you know, thing which you've got to try and find an adapter to, like a shaver. So that's really good. I haven't even used this yet because I've just used chargers I've already got. So let's put all this away and we'll have a look at the website. So here we are on Tidradio's website, showing this radio, second generation apparently, Tidradio Td-H8, Bluetooth programming repeater capable long range radio. There's 340 reviews, and the price in pounds, £48, so it's a fair bit more than your average Chinese radio, or if you want to see that in other currencies, dollars, $60 basically. So yeah, it just shows you what it does and gives you a description of it and whatever. 10 watt, 2,500 milliamp hour battery, 199 channel memory, wireless programming, large colour screen, better display sync, whatever that means. 10 watts, 144, 148. Nothing else particularly interesting on there, but I will include a link in the description to this should you want to buy one from them or just look at it. But you can also, I believe, get it on AliExpress. I don't want notifications, and amazingly they're selling it for £38, and that's a bit cheaper then, isn't it? I don't know whether it's got free delivery on it. It might have. £38 is not a bad price for a radio like this, I guess. Free shipping, yes, free shipping. So there you go. If you want to buy it on AliExpress, might be a better way to buy one of these. I could do that in dollars as well, maybe. No, I don't know if it does that, but oh yeah, it does. $57. Okay, so there you go. Or was that euros? Oh well, it's not important anyway. I don't want notifications. So yeah, I'll link that in as well in the description, that website, AliExpress. I've bought a few things from AliExpress and I've always found them to be very fast and very reliable and decent company. So now what should we do with it? We'll do some more tests on it. So one of the things that attracted me about this radio was the fact that it purports to produce 10 watts, which is a massive amount of power in a handheld. I think you'll agree. And my experience of radios in the past has been, I've got this one, which is supposedly an 8-watt Baophone, and I've got some reasonably accurate measuring equipment for RF power, and the most I could see on both VHF and UHF was about 6.5 watts. Still a fairly decent power output for a handheld radio, but not the 8 watts that they claimed it was. But I mean, when I think back to my first handheld IC2E 40 odd years ago, that was 1.5 watts, and it was nearly as big as those two combined. So we've come a long way in that time. So what I want to do now is I'm going to connect it up to a power meter and we'll measure it and see if it really is as much as it claims to be. I already know the answer, but we'll do it anyway. So I could have used my Agilent RF power meter to measure this radio, but I've checked this power meter and I believe it to be reasonably accurate. So we're going to be on 145 megahertz at the moment, transmitting at high power into a dummy load. Press the PTT, and if you can see there, 10.0 watts. Well, you can't say fairer than that, can you? That's more than complies with its specification. My only concern about running it at this power is not only the safety of having that antenna near your head, although they do in the manual say please keep it high as possible, so they've got their ideas right there. So the other concern is, how long's the battery going to last running at 10 watts? I think if I was going to use this radio, I'd have it set to medium power most of the time, which is supposed to be 5 watts. So let's try it on medium. And this is another annoyance. There's no real quick and easy way to change the power. I have to do, well, there are shortcuts on the keyboard. So if I press menu and trying to find TX power, and menu again, and menu to select mid and exit. That's really a tedious process, but let's just try it anyway. Three watts. Okay, so it's not 5 watts on medium. So that's a slight disappointment, but not a major issue, I guess. Okay, back to the fiddling again. Menu, TX power. No, menu, TX power. Low. Menu, exit. All those steps just to change the power. Really annoying. Now, let's just try it on here. Alright, low power's good, 1 watt. That's what it's, I think it was supposed to be 2 watt. Let's just have a quick look. I'm not going to complain though about 1 watt for low power. I've got to find specifications, wherever they are. I don't know where they are. Right. Just says 10 watt. I'm not going to go all the way through that. But I thought it was supposed to be 2, but I mean, to be honest, I would prefer low power to be something like 100 milliwatts. But that's just a personal preference. So, having done all that, messing around, let me just show you something. This Baofeng, if I want to change power on this, I don't know if you can see that. Let's put it on 146 for the time being. All I've got to do is press this button and an L comes up for low power. So it's a 1 button press. You've only got a lot high and low on this Baofeng, and then you go back to high again. So it's a 1 button operation to change the power, and yeah, I've got to go through all that hassle in the menu when I want to change the power on this radio. And that should have been something that you could have assigned to one of the side buttons in the settings. That would make a massive advantage to me, to have a single press to change power. But enough of all that. Now what we've got to do, we've got to check UHF, and let's try a repeater which is on 433-100, and we're on high, and so the input is 1.6 below that. 9 watts. Dropping a bit. Don't know if I've got dodgy connections. Seems fine. .6, 8. It's varying slightly. Not sure why that should be. But of course, the display, as you can see, still reads 10 no matter what comes out of it. So there you go. I'm not going to do all the low power and medium power. It's just too much hassle going through the menu for UHF. But I'm most impressed that it produces 10 watts on VHF. Anyway, let me just do something else. Okay, this is a quan chain, whatever the number is, can't remember. This is one which I played with before, did a video on. On this one, I've managed to assign that button at the bottom to quickly change from high to low to medium. That's what I'd like to see implemented on this radio. But again, I don't suppose it's a major issue. It's just a bit annoying. So I think what I ought to do now is demonstrate how you can program it using your phone. Okay, so as I said, I prefer programming using Chirp myself because I've been using it for such a long time. But you can download this app called Oddmaster, which is an odd name, but never mind. And then you can connect to the radio. So if I turn on Bluetooth, and we get a Bluetooth symbol comes up. In theory, and it does have bugs, if I start this up, I've got to select the model, Tidradio Td-H8, ham, connect with Bluetooth, and turn that on. I hope the screen's clear. I'm not sure it is, but so I can read now from the radio in theory, and you can see the progress along here and also on the screen telling you it's reading the radio. Excuse me. So there you go, and now it's displaying the channel that I'm on, which channel 1 is a repeater, and you got all the stuff here like the tone, CT, CSS tone. For some reason it says transmit power low. I don't know why that's happens, but because it still says high on there, but I don't know about that. And the name is down here, GB3WR. And what else can I make it do? No, don't want to do that. How do I get another channel? Ah, that's how you do it. So now I can select any of those memory channels, and the green ones are the ones that I've already programmed. That's channel 2, and so on. And that one's to transmit high. Well, I don't now understand that, because the other one was low and I didn't save it as being low power. So there you go. And that shows you all the channels, and all the red ones are ones that have nothing stored in them. So that's quite decent. The only thing I do miss on Chirp is that you have the whole spreadsheet of all your memories shown at once, but this works. The other thing you can do is program the functions. Okay. Right, what I wanted to look at was the buttons that are assignable by you. And the top button, which is this orange one, I can have lamp, radio, tone, that's 1750 Hertz tone, alarm, weather. Well, lamp's about the most useful one for that, so that's fine. Now we have the side buttons. PF1 I think is the top one. So what choices do I have for that? I can have radio, which I don't need because I don't want to listen to the radio. I can have lamp, which I don't need either. I can have 1750 Hz tone, alarm and weather. And that's the only choices you get. Why can't I have a button to change the power? A function to change power? Or even put it into scan mode, which is what I've done on that Quansheng on one of the buttons. But that's it, the only choices you get. It could be changed, I'm sure, in the firmware. And the other button is exactly the same. None of those are particularly useful, I find, to me. We haven't got weather channels in the UK, so that's out. I don't want to listen to FM radio. The lamp I've got on the top button, the squelch defeat, yeah, that's quite useful. I've got that programmed into it. And alarm, well, I never want to use an alarm. So that's my criticism on those buttons. But there you go. And you can change a lot of stuff in this. Basically, you can go into you're going into the menu in a different way. And for instance, mic gain you can change. That's something I'm going to look at in a minute, because I'm quite impressed with that. But I think we've seen enough of that. But it's quite good, this odd master thing, you know, if you want to program it on your phone rather than using a computer. It does what it's supposed to do, apart from its slight problem I had with the power setting, which is still says low for. Anyway, let's get out of that. Okay, well, next thing I'm going to cover is mic gain. Now, Baofangs were notorious for low audio output, and you can enlarge the hole for the microphone, which makes a slight difference. And I've actually modified, I've done a hardware mod to increase the audio gain on both these radios, but that's beside the point. We're not looking at them, we're looking at this one. So I go to menu 45, mic gain. So if I go into that one, I can go all the way from 0, as if you want a 0, to 32. I think that's quite impressive to be able to do that. And I had it on 20, that seemed about the best when I was testing it. So I think that's really well done. I don't know whether there's anything else interesting in the menus. Squelch, of course, step size, power. Oh, it is on low. That's interesting. So it wasn't lying after all. That's interesting. It seems to remember that I'd set that to low on that particular memory. Let's put it back to high for now.
Confirm.
So,
Menu.
power save, don't need to know about that. Vox level, don't use Vox. Bandwidth and wide narrow. The jury's still out on this because of the increased mic gain, as whether you need it in narrow or wide deviation. I haven't determined that yet. That's the timeout for the display. You can have it on continuous if you want, but it'll run the battery down. I'm going back to 15 seconds, because that's what I like, I think. Wait, don't know what that is. Beep off. Don't want it to beep all the time. Timeout timer. Don't want that. DCS, CTCSS, that's for receive. Transmit, transmit CTCSS 94.8 for that repeater. Voice, yeah, just voice prompts, that's okay. I can go through this endlessly. Scan mode. Name, B. No, enough, you don't want to see all that. It's fairly straightforward stuff. If you've used any old Baofeng, you'll get the hang of it fairly quickly. Don't know what else to say about it really, but I really do want to come on to a major issue with this display that makes it, the radio for me, almost unusable, sadly. The display generates RF noise, radio frequency noise, which is enough to cause a nasty buzzing noise on a weak to moderate signal. And let's face it, it's a handheld with a short aerial antenna. You want it to be able to pick up a weakish signal, and it's not going to get massively strong signals with an antenna that's that size. So anything that degrades the receiver performance is just not acceptable to me. And I've contacted Tidradio about this issue, and they haven't got back to me properly yet. I even did them a short video demonstrating the problem. I'm going to try and demonstrate it now. I was going to demonstrate it outside on a repeater, but it's so windy today. I think it would be, you get more wind noise than display noise. I have to think about that one, see which is best at the moment. Okay, I've come outside and I'm going to try and demonstrate this problem on a real signal rather than doing it in my workshop. And I'm listening to a repeater which is about 40 miles from here, and it's always a clearish signal in this particular position. It says turn it up.
On this thing, to download, use your HS.
That noise, why's the display turning on?
And also how good your antenna.
Let's turn it on again.
The one I got from Northern Canada and Arctic was 0.001
See?
of a watt.
As far as I'm concerned, that's a nice clear signal, and I can hear exactly everything they're saying.
Quite amazing, back to you.
But, you know, the display completely wipes that out, and that is just not acceptable as far as I'm concerned. So, back inside again, and that radiation coming off that display is making this radio, for me, unusable. Although, to be fair, it only does it on VHF and not UHF. But considering I spend 99% of my time on 2 meters rather than 70 centimeters, that would be a major issue for me. And I really am surprised I haven't noticed this when they've been testing the radio in the development stage, but I don't know. I wish they could cure it. It needs some sort of screening to stop that noise radiating out from the colour display. Well, in conclusion then, it's a lovely radio, made, for me, virtually useless by that single issue. But it may not be a problem for other people. It wouldn't be a problem if you're using it on strong signals all the time, but I'm not one of those people. I tend to want it to work down to a low signal level. Anyway, enough waffling from me. Check out the links in the description if you want to buy one. And once again, thanks to Tidradio for sending me this to review. Bye for now.